Morning, sixth graders. Coming at you live from the apartment today. It is May 4th, which is a Monday, and we have a packet turn-in day today. So we're kind of getting into this groove now. I've noticed it over time that having you do any sort of assignments on the day that we have packet turn-ins, besides maybe a quiz, is really difficult. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the video. You're going to be answering the exit ticket, which is going to come from the video. And then after that, you won't have any homework. We'll start over tomorrow once you get your new packet and everything squared away. So that being said, we'll get into it. I don't think I really have too many announcements for you in terms of Trivium at this time, except for the fact that on Wednesday, so May 6th, you are going to have your rough draft of your proverb due. So I think personally that once you're done with this, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea if you're not done to get into that, keep working on it because you don't have any other homework today. But once again, I mean, it's kind of your choice. So that being said, let's get into the screen share. Layla's having a sleepy morning this morning. She's been licking her leg. I don't know why. You want to help me with this video? No? You too tired? That's okay. So our last few philosophers that we've talked about are all guys from the ancient Greek world, right? We've got Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, the big three, as I like to refer to them as. Now, though this man does look like he could potentially be a Greek, I mean, I kind of see a combination of Plato and Socrates just in his appearance, maybe a little Aristotle in there too. This person actually has very little to do with Greece, except for the fact that his empire ends up adopting a lot of their culture once they invade from it. This person is actually a Roman, and his name is Marcus Aurelius, which if you looked at your lesson title before you came in here, you would see that. And he is a Roman emperor from about 160 CE or AD to 180 AD or CE. And we're not really going to talk about him being an emperor all that much because that doesn't really have anything to do with Trivium class. And quite frankly, he really isn't all that well known for being an emperor anyway. His contribution to the world actually comes in the way of philosophy, and it's because he adopts an idea of thought, and it's called Stoicism, or being a Stoic. And the warm-up that you were asked to talk about, and I'm curious to see what you responded, as why do people help someone when they pick things up in the hallway, even though they're not asked and they're not paid? And yet it seems to be something that, like, if a student dropped books and you didn't even know the student, you'd still see a couple people come up and try to help them. And I think it goes along with this idea of being a Stoic, or Stoicism, which he did not invent. He just wrote books on talking about it, so we figured out what it means better. And if you hear the word Stoic, a lot of times people misuse it. They make it seem like it is something where you have a lack of emotion. And so I know my father was called a Stoic when I was a kid because he usually doesn't show emotion all that much. That's actually not true, and we'll get into that in a second. It really just means that you're going to have a very similar emotional reaction to a whole bunch of different ideas and situations. By the way, he has a rocking beard. If I could grow a beard like that, like, I would let it grow out much more than this like short one that I keep it at. It's awesome. Okay, so virtues. We talked about these with Aristotle, right? There's a whole bunch of them. A virtue is basically something that someone tries to either develop in themselves, or it's something to try to guide them in how to behave, right? Now, in Stoicism, there are really four cardinal or main virtues. One is wisdom, trying to seek it, try to become smarter and learn throughout your life. Two, temperance. Another word for that is moderation, right? Trying to make sure that you are not overdoing anything in your life, that you're keeping a good balance. An example of a video that we might show here in just a little bit, it talks about how some people just want to sleep all day and they don't want to get up. Well, we know that there's a specific amount of time in our own brains where we know where we've gotten enough sleep and we're just continuing to overindulge in that sleep. The same thing is if you have a handful of glazed potato chips and you're like, dang, I want another handful. And eventually you have a whole family-sized bag now. You are not practicing temperance. You are not practicing moderation. 3 is justice. And I think that is more of an idea of trying to be open-minded to things around you and using that to come to a correct decision on something. When he's a Roman emperor, that obviously is going to be a very, very big deal to him, right? He needs to understand exactly how to react and to be fair in situations where they have people that are going to be butting heads constantly, whether it's in the Roman ranks or between the barbarian tribes that he's going to be fighting, and we'll get to that in a second. And the 4th is courage. And that basically means that you're going to be faced with a whole bunch of different possibilities, situations, and some of those things may not be ideal. But the way that you approach them is that you have to show bravery and courage, and the fact that even though you know it might be bad, you need to try to overcome that to the best of your ability. Once again, a pretty desirable trait for somebody who's leading the Roman Empire. Okay, so this is the Roman Empire at the time of Marcus Aurelius. And I just wanted to show you this because, first of all, this is the empire basically like at its height, probably pretty dang close anyway. You could argue that 50 years prior, maybe it was a little bit more during the time of Hadrian. But seriously, I mean, what I really want to get at is this is where we're sitting, right? For Marcus, he's going to be spending a lot of his times fighting out in Germany. Now, we have people like Caligula, Claudius, and others that they're going to be having these campaigns during their whole time, but they're going to be sitting at Rome, right? They're not going to be out riding along, conquering, making the military decisions. Marcus does that, okay? And Marcus believes that he needs to do it because it's him giving the orders, and he needs to do the work. He needs to show that he is the one that is going to carry out that responsibility to be a leader, to come back with the desired outcome that he wants. And Stoicism is huge on that. Stoicism says that you have a job, you have a responsibility, and you need to do 2 things. 1, you need to find out what that is. And it's different for everybody, right? But you need to find out what you're put here for and what your responsibility is. For Marcus, that's what he believed it was. And then secondly, you got to do your darndest to get it done, right? It is your responsibility when you find out what you're supposed to be doing to do it to the best of your ability. And the way that you do it, according to him and according to other Stoics, is that you need to follow these 4 cardinal virtues. So here's a quote from Marcus saying, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you are going to find strength." And the idea is that Stoics, and this is where the misconception comes in, Stoics are not emotionless. However, they understand that their attitude and the way that they take in things is the only thing they can control. Everything else is going to happen regardless. A great example is what we're dealing with right now, right? The fact that we're sitting at home learning over a computer screen rather than being in a classroom around our teachers and friends, right? But Marcus would say, look, we knew bad things were going to happen. We might not know that this bad thing was going to happen, but we know the world. We know bad things happen. And the only thing we can do is to show that we have the right attitude to face it and still try to succeed, even if it's going to stink. You do your best, you try to come through it, and you're going to be a better person because of it. So he's facing it with a positive attitude, right? And that is the Stoic principle. You try to have the best positive personal attitude that you can possibly have. So just really quickly here, I'm just going to play this beginning. This is from a YouTube video from a guy that he comes up with. He's big into Stoicism. In fact, he actually has his own podcast, and he just talks about the morning routine. And I just thought it was a really, really, really good idea. So I just wanted to put it on here really quick. We could just listen to it. This is what he would have done on a daily basis every single morning.
For all the support. I think one of the passages that struck me the most, it struck me so much that at the time I typed the entire thing up and I printed it out and I put it on the wall of my apartment next to my bed in college. And it's this passage. Marcus Aurelius, he opens book 5 with it. He says, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I am going to do what I was born for? The things.
And that is talking about that responsibility, right? The idea that you got to find what you are put here to do. And if that's the case, and you know that it was something you're supposed to do, you have no right to complain about doing it because it's something that you were made to accomplish.
I was brought into the world to do. Or is this what I was created for? To huddle under the blankets and stay warm? And then he has like this little conversation with himself. He goes, but it's nicer here. And I think anyone that's not wanted to get out of bed in the morning has had this dialogue. So you were born to feel nice, he says, instead of doing things and experiencing them. Don't you see plants, birds and ants and spiders and bees going about their individual tasks, putting the world in order as best they can, and you're not willing to do your job as a human being? Why aren't you running to do what your nature demands? But we have to sleep sometimes, he complains. Agreed, but nature set a limit to that.
And once again, that's the idea of temperance, right? Or moderation, of sleeping a certain amount, not doing anything too much. And I really like that idea of him bringing up almost kind of something from Aristotle, right? He's using nature to explain his philosophy. He's saying, look, there's all of these things outside and they all have their specific tasks. I think the best example was the worker bee, right? The worker honeybee is supposed to make honey all the time. That's their goal, okay? So because of that, you don't see them really taking breaks and stopping. They're continuously doing what they were put there to do, and that was to create honey. So you need to find a way how to make your honey, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that in some cases, Marcus Aurelius seems like a downer, but I really hope that you don't think of him that way, because what he's really trying to do is to say, look, there really isn't any particular time where you're going to go into life and not have struggles. And it's about how strong you are in the mind and how you're able to make decisions on how you react to them. That's what makes the situation either really good or really bad. And if you can continue to have that strong mind and abide by these 4 cardinal virtues, you can hope to come out on top of any situation. So remember, your only homework for tonight is your exit ticket. It says one of Marcus Aurelius' main philosophies is that we need to moderate or eliminate giving himself or ourselves the things he desired. The video answered this, but why do you think it's so important? Okay, so we've talked about it quite a bit, right? But the idea of moderation, because if you're doing stuff too much, right? Let's say sleep, that's a great example. What is all of that extra sleep preventing you from being able to do? All right, we'll see you tomorrow, starting with our next week on May 5th. Ladies and gentlemen, have yourself a good night. And I'll just be honest with you, tomorrow's going to be fallacies. So get ready for that. All right. Take care.